have with me in the studio a Delta State governorship aspirant on the platform of the APC, Gloria Okolugbo. Also in the studio is a Lagos State governorship aspirant on the platform of the ADP, Babatunde Gbadamosi. And finally, the spokesman of the APC Lagos State chapter, Joe Igbokwe. Gentlemen and lady, thanks for coming to the program.
Thank you so much for having us.
It's a pleasure.
Now, there is every indication that the 2019 presidential election will be an epic battle, a fight to the finish for aspirants gunning for the top job. A lot of bigwigs are throwing their hats in the ring to challenge incumbent President Muhammadu Buhari. This is as the All Progressives Congress has decided to adopt the direct primary method for choosing its candidates' elective positions. The APC tested the direct primary method in Osun, where party members voted for candidates of their choice as against a select few picking candidates on behalf of the party. But some APC stalwarts have expressed their reservations about the process. Before I come to what your take is, I'll start with you, Joe. Why did the party decide to go this path?
Well, we have followed this indirect, primaries for years, and it's been costing us a lot of money, a lot of time, and confusion.
Confusion? How do you mean?
Complaints, I can remove the word confusion, complaints thereafter. People talk about buying, people talk about moving the voters, the voters to a hotel. Calm them, go and hide them. If you are going to do probably you're going to do something, then you go to a car and hide them so that the other person will not see them. So these things, cost money. You end up seeing a delegate going home with thousands of naira,
When you weigh the cost,
and you can't even guarantee.
When you weigh the financial cost that's against the cost of some have said it's going to cost, it has cost crisis, especially when we had it in one of the elections, recently concluded elections, and in Osun State, the crisis it cost. So they're saying that, and I'm asking, when you weigh the cost, when you talk about finances, as against the crisis it is going to bring the party.
No, this one is going to deepen the internal democracy.
Getting
all the party members to get involved. All you need is your card carrying members as an APC member, and you line up. Probably option A4. It saves you time. It saves you so many things. I'm not saying that you may not have some limitations. But when you weigh it against indirect, you know that direct is okay. It's okay, it's the way to go. There's no system that's without problems. But it's by the time you weigh it, when you have one, this, you have one, you weigh it. I am saying, given my experience, experiences over the years in this issue of indirect, primaries, that this one will be better. This one will be better. And it will give people a sense of belonging. Everybody will participate, so long as you're a card-carrying member of the party. It makes you have a sense of belonging, even though you are not getting anything. But it makes you feel, look, I am part of this. And it's going to throw up the most popular candidate immediately without going to, I know sometimes it takes 2 days to count. Remember what happened in, I think in Ekiti, there was trouble. People kicked the ballot boxes and threw it away. Now you don't have the chance to do that because it's happening in every ward, in every local government, all over.
Let's bring Babatunde in now because he is smiling, so he might have a contrary opinion to what you have said. But do you see...
It's for our party. His party can decide what they want to do. It's not a general thing.
I know. I'm going to ask him, is your party looking at adopting direct primaries, or do you see it as something that can deepen democracy?
Let me correct a misconception really quick.
All right.
The ADP started out with direct primaries as our policy from inception. So this is actually being borrowed from the ADP.
We stole it.
This is being borrowed from the ADP. Okay? The APC started out with indirect primaries, and it was always as directed by the godfathers of their party or the godfather of their party. So when the ADP was registered last year, it was in our manifesto, and it's also in our constitution that all primaries will be direct. So the APC are latter-day converts to the idea of direct primaries. And they've actually, unashamedly borrowed it from us. We're quite happy to let them experiment with it, although we know that they have a capacity, an inordinate capacity for botching up the best ideas, just the same way they stood the idea of PPP on its head in Lagos State and turned it into a means of milking the populace whilst delivering very little.
Really?
Yes, but let's not go down there. Let's focus on the issue
Yes, I was going to say that.
Direct and indirect primary. So we
How
use...
has that deepened democracy within your party?
Well, the fact is, because of the way we do it, because we don't have godfathers, as it were, that have, inordinate amounts of cash sloshing around, only the most popular candidates will emerge as a result of direct primaries, because there are too many people to bribe. There are just too many people. If you are asking every party member, every card-carrying member of the party to come vote for the candidate of their choice, and we do have quite a large membership, thank you very much, across the states, especially in Lagos State, you will be looking at the most popular available candidate, aspirant, winning the candidacy of the party at every primaries.
Right.
That's the only way to go. But then again, I say this with a great deal of caution. The APC has this uncanny ability to stand the best ideas in the world on their head and achieve the hitherto unthinkable negatives with the most positive things. I stop there for the time being.
All right, Gloria, there has been controversies since this announcement was made. Some have said, no, it has to be indirect primaries. And there are reports saying that some states intend to adopt indirect primaries. But then, should a politician be afraid of whatever method its party decides to adopt?
Well, I'd like to start by saying unashamedly or not, unashamedly adopting or not, it's a welcome development that APC has decided to adopt the direct primaries. And I think that that's what's going to get a lot of progressives on board on the APC. Whilst not holding brief for Lagos State, I doubt if other states have been able to apply, other states who had other parties at the helm of affairs, at least apply the PPP arrangement, even if it's on its head, to achieve what we have seen in Lagos State. So be that as it may, I think the direct primaries for us is such a welcome development in APC, and we're looking forward to it being upheld as a policy, just like he's saying, because politics generally is about, if your democracy is to grow and you're to grow the institution, you must be looking at adopting best practices across board. We know out of experience in this country that the best candidates are sifted out at the point of primaries. That has been the practice with the ruling party over the years. And APC as an arrangement was a child of necessity. Look at the defections happening. Now we have a party that is actually representational of the progressiveness that it stood for. And that's why a lot of us are proud to come on board. And we might not say that it's Uhuru, but we're getting there. And that's
gradual process.
Yes, it's a gradual process. I'm very proud to be a member of APC today, and I'm glad that today I can boldly say, yes, I can stand and say I will be a gubernatorial candidate, because I look forward to a process that will be transparent, where all the party members will have a say, a voice. It's a different day. It's a new dawn, and we're looking at embracing it.
So back to the question I asked. So you are not afraid if your state decides to adopt the direct primaries?
I am confident that with the adoption of the direct primaries, somebody like me has a better chance of getting the right thing done at the elections, there's little chance of manipulation, and the game of money is over. And
Is
this well, you have more chances of it being over than when you had the delegate system. I'm coming from PDP. So I'm talking from a position of experience. I've been part of the delegate system. And I tell you, it's a zero system for democracy. Zero. It's not even 1%. That's the problem we have with our democracy not growing, because it's a game of money. Who has what to buy the delegates? So when you eliminate the delegate system and everybody in the party has a say by whatever means, especially if it becomes option A4, then the best candidates can have a chance. I'm optimistic.
All right.
Very, very optimistic.
Okay, Wadata Plaza has become a beehive of activities as presidential hopeful throng the People's Democratic Party Secretariat to obtain nomination and expression of interest forms. At present, there are about 14 members of the party jostling for its ticket for the 2019 presidential slot. The latest person to join the list is embattled Senate President Bukola Saraki. Some political watchers say this might pose a challenge for the party, set it on the path of fresh crisis, and untimely dash its hope of returning to power. Are we about to see a scenario where too many cooks will spoil the broth? I come to you, back to you, Gloria. Are we about to see a situation where too many cooks spoil the broth?
Obviously, it stands to reason, because you have a lot of people who, over time, if it's a power play, if it's a money game, you have a number of people who have the ability to play this game. And you also have a number of players who have been in the system and they know how to play the game. You also have party faithfuls who have stayed the course of opposition with the party. And you also have people who have crossed and come on board lately, who politically are supposed to be heavyweights. So I don't envy PDP at all. I don't envy the position they find themselves. I think the best advice that could be given is to look progressively. Maybe opposition could help them to sit back and look at options. Being in opposition sometimes can open your eyes. So maybe they'll have to adopt a different method. And in doing so, I think it will be good for our democracy, because we will grow. Opposition will grow, the ruling party will grow.
Perhaps this might spell growth for the opposition, Babatunde, looking at the fact that Saraki just defected from the APC to the PDP, and now he has picked up, he has declared his intention. Did it come to you as a surprise?
Well, the inordinate amount of attention visited upon the leadership of the National Assembly, perhaps because of the way they emerged, was always going to throw up this kind of issue. There was always going to be a defection. I just never thought it was going to be the Senate President himself that would defect. The truth is, as an impartial observer, no longer being a member of the PDP myself since 2016, I have to say that I've felt sorry for the Senate President ever since he, some people will disagree with the way he took power, but he took it democratically. There was an election, he won. And it seems that some people took that in really bad faith, and he's been, in one dilemma after the other until the Supreme Court pronouncement a couple of months ago. Now, it's his right to contest. It's also the right of the other aspirants to throw their hats in the ring. It just makes democracy more interesting, in my opinion. And like my colleague rightly said, it will deepen and widen our democracy, the whole contest. And perhaps it's a time for PDP as a political party to do some self-introspection, some self-examination, and see where they've got things wrong, and see how they visited upon the leadership of the National Assembly, perhaps because of the way they emerged, was always going to throw up this kind of issue. there was always going to be a defection. I just never thought it was going to be the Senate president himself that would defect. The truth is, as an impartial observer, no longer being a member of the PDP myself since 2016, I have to say that I've felt sorry for the Senate president ever since he, some people will disagree with the way he took power, but he took it democratically. There was an election, he won. And it seems that some people took that in really bad faith, and he's been, in one dilemma after the other until the Supreme Court pronouncement a couple of months ago. Now, it's his right to contest. It's also the right of the other aspirants to throw their hats in the ring. It just makes democracy more interesting, in my opinion. And like my colleague rightly said, it will deepen and widen our democracy, the whole contest. And perhaps it's a time for PDP as a political party to do some self-introspection, some self-examination, and see where they've got things wrong and see how they can get things right. It will be in the interest of the country, in my opinion, that the PDP throws up the strongest candidate that they can, so that we can have a real contest at the presidential elections.
Okay, we'll come back to that, the issue of throwing up the strongest candidate. Now, I come to you now, Joe. The national chairman of the APC says that this declaration by Saraki has vindicated his comments that Saraki left the party because of his personal ambition, not because of the interest of the nation. Does it mean that if Saraki had stayed in the party, he wouldn't have been able to declare his intention to run for the presidency, seeing that the president, that Muhammadu Buhari, has not been endorsed as a consensus candidate?
Of course, we have no other candidate except President Buhari. And
we cannot
he knows that.
He knows that
very well. He knows that very well. But let me tell you, right from day one, Saraki was not an APC.
Really?
Right from day one. He
How?
had that mission in mind, that plan to become the president of Nigeria. And that's why he left his party after we won election in 2015 to go to the opposition, got their support, and became the Senate president against the plans of the leadership of APC to bring one of our, somebody we can, we position for that office. He did that.
Like he said, there was an election that took place.
No, he said it an election. I was not the one that said it. He said an election. We didn't see the election. It was manipulated. It was a night affair. Some of our members, majority of our members, many of them were in a meeting. So it is never done. We saw it as one of the most colossal betrayal anybody can do to his party. And we've not seen that kind of betrayal in this world. And he also saw from the beginning to get to where we are today, he has never helped our party to deliver what we promised the people right from day one. The budget of 2016 was delayed for 5 months. The budget of 2017 was delayed for 7 months, for 6 months. The budget of 2018.
Was that his doing?
Of course, he's the leader. Yes, they were sitting on the budget. The idea is not to deliberately do it, but to get a lot of money to do what he's doing now. To pad the budget to the tune of billions to be able to do what he's doing now. So having gotten what he wants now, felt, well, I cannot get this thing in APC.
I have to
Let me move.
Why didn't the party address these issues immediately when it saw that it wasn't, delivering on what the party stood for or promised to deliver to the people? Why didn't it address it immediately?
He did not see the battles. He did not see, it was difficult to push him out because we never wanted him right from day one. And you saw the battles, We're not on the same page with him right from day one. And to people like us today, we have been vindicated that he came into APC, but he was not APC in spirit. APC was
So
not,
because,
he has a target to do what he's doing now.
Because of his ambition, that made...
Yes, so that's it.
But he had a right to have an ambition.
Not ambition is the propelling force that weighs along a sense of mission and sense of direction, but it should not be misdirected. It should not be inordinate. This is what we call inordinate ambition.
How? What
Sacrificing the needs of a nation, the needs of about 180 million people, just for a sake. But that's what he's known for. If you go back to his history, antecedents, whether it's from the Society General Bank, Kwara State for 8 years, and so many other things he has put. It's all about self-ambition. He fought with his father. He's fighting with his sister of the same mother. So he had a terrible temperament. If he wants something, he wants to get it at all costs. That is his life. So thank God we have pushed him out. Did
the party push him out?
No,
or
he pushed himself out because the dynamics, the fundamentals, couldn't permit him to continue to remain.
Before I come to Babatunde, there was an agreement before he came to the APC, before he joined the coalition. So how come the party didn't see through all of this to agree to have him with them?
Agreements of what the party will give him for coming to APC? What kind of agreement is that?
They didn't see through him because he was in the PDP before he moved to the APC.
He was not the only person. He was not the only person. There's so many of them. Governors, senators that came in. But he had in mind what he wanted to do right from day one. And we have seen it moved. Now that he has taken the decision, let's see how far it can go. I think that what is playing out is that he's just looking for a soft landing. Because what happened is when he moved with the senators, as senators to the PDP, thought he would get a majority immediately to remain as the Senate president and then do whatever he wants to do.
And you think he wouldn't have a soft landing?
That one did not happen. So the best option is to dabble into... You won't talk now until I finish. What he did was to dabble into presidential, into presidential stuff. Because he's not going to win.
Exactly.
He's not going to get the nomination. He's not going to do anything. So if you touch him now, you say he's a presidential candidate, you're shunting him. So he's a smart...
we cannot really conclude that he wouldn't get what he wants.
I have been in this thing for years.
Babatunde, we need to bring you
now it's your turn, Babatunde. Oh, yeah.
in now. You wanted to chip in something. But I must ask, does his ambition make him selfish?
Politics is defined by ambition. The very idea of being a politician suggests that you have some ambition of some kind, whether it is to serve your people, whether it is to lead your people in some capacity. There always is an ambition that defines the politician. Now, I really do not agree entirely with the submissions of Mr. Igbokwe regarding, especially as regards the personal life of the Senate President. I think that's a bit below the belt, personally. I wouldn't go there. He has the right to contest for any position that he sees fit to, at any time that he sees fit to. I don't understand what the furore is about. As far as I can see, at the time he contested for the Senate presidency, he was a member of the APC. At the time the election took place, he got the votes of majority of the members of the Senate as required by the Constitution, whether present or not. If you took the numbers of all the senators elected into the 8th Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and you counted those that voted for Saraki, he had a majority. Whether some people were present or they were absent, it didn't matter. He had a majority of the members of the Senate vote him into office. So some people went to a meeting. Well, if they don't know their onions as politicians, if they are naive enough to do what they did at the time there was an election for a president, for a Senate president, then it says a lot, doesn't it, about their competence as politicians. And it says a lot about the nature of their party, that they would fight and, scratch and kick and bite and claw for this long, at the poor fellow and turn him into this, this anti-hero that they tried to make him into. In the end, ultimately, he's now left their party, and they're the ones left, carrying the stick, so to speak, and he's now running for presidency against the incumbent president. Now, is it his right to run? Absolutely. Is it anybody's prerogative to attempt to stop him extra-democratically? Absolutely not. If you disagree with the fact that he's contesting, please, by all means, go and contest against him. Nothing stops you under the Constitution from going to another party and getting their nomination form to run for president, or throwing all your support behind a president who has clearly failed, to lift Nigerians out of poverty. Well, they're saying that he lifted Nigerians out of poverty, and some people are saying that, yes, indeed he has, into extreme poverty.
Well,
okay, now, Gloria,
yes,
you want to say something?
I will not want to agree with you. While I agree with you on the point that he might have gotten too personal with the issues that have to do with the Senate president, because I think that we shouldn't sink to that level to bring personal issues when we are talking about issues. I will completely disagree with you when you say the president has failed.
Oh, yeah.
Because, I will completely disagree with you. When you look at the drama it's not personal. We are running a democracy that presents candidates on the platform of a party. And if you cannot adhere to party discipline, it speaks a lot of your ability to lead. It speaks a lot of your ability to lead. And I'm not talking about personal issues, I'm talking about party discipline and loyalty. You emerged on the platform of a party, you were voted in on the platform of APC. Your name was not on the ballot. And then there was a caucus meeting. It behoved on you to be in the caucus meeting. And so when you emerge in those circumstances, you got the popular vote, yes, but you need to deal with the issues that you have played up in your party. That is the dynamics of politics. A politician of that level should have known that. And then after emerging, it behoved on you to play the politics aright to ensure that your party succeeds with its agenda. But if you share the ideology of the party in the first instance, then you will put the ideology of the party, which is progressiveness, above your personal and inordinate ambition.
So that makes them selfish.
Of course.
I believe so.
Of course.
I believe so, because a politician of that capacity should have understood where party supremacy comes in. He's not a baby politician. I have a lot of respect for him, but he should have expected that he should have dealt with the issue of party loyalty and the agenda of the party. When you finish with politics, governance begins. And you begin to look at governance, delivery of the dividends of democracy for the people. When the overall structure now fails, then you look at the structure that is in place. You can't sit down and say, President Muhammadu Buhari has failed, while the Senate president was on another angle. You found a coalition that was not in sync, and that is why water is finding its level. And now we have the progressive wing vis-a-vis those who were not able to blend, and water will find its level.
Thank you,
I want to respond to the idea.
You would respond.
Idea that the president has failed.
But then we need to go on a short break, and the discussion continues when we return. Do stay with us.
Agree to work together. That's it.
Again, please. Remove your hand.
1, 2, 3. We have all agreed to work together.
1, 2, 3.
We have all agreed to work together.
Well, these were members of the presidential aspirants coming together, packed there, pledging to work together to produce a consensus candidate for 2019 presidential election. After a two-staged voting process on Thursday, Fela Durotoye of the Alliance for a New Nigeria ANN emerged as that consensus candidate. But Kingsley Mohalu of the Young Progressive Party, YPP, has rejected the outcome. What does this say about the way Nigerians play politics, seeing how the newbies have been parading themselves as people of honor and integrity? Gloria?
Wow, you picked on a newbie herself. I have a lot of respect for the newbies, like you addressed them. And that also brings me to the president, who has signed the bill to enable younger people to come on board. And we have a lot of, we want to thank him so much for assenting to that bill. It also brings us to the reality of what you learn when you have experience in the political playing field. If you have some experience in the game, which you should learn. If you have something to put on the table, I have a lot of respect, and I'm glad about the number of people that have come forward to contest the presidential election. But you need to also understand the system. If you're going to Lagos and you're coming from Calabar and you board a vehicle that doesn't have the capacity to take you there, you could spend the entire time trying to take you there for a meeting, and the meeting will be over. So you need to understand the dynamics at work, and you need to understand how you can get to where you're going. Of course, personal ambition can sometimes drive you so much because you know what you have on the table. It might not be inordinate, it might just be, I know that I can make a difference, and I think that that is what has probably made one person to say, okay, I'll leave. That's not unexpected, because even in the pact agreement, there was a proviso that gave them the right to self-actualize and still go on and contest their election. But what I will advise the newbies to do is try to understand how you can be learn part of a system and know how to emerge properly. It's very difficult to stand alone. I wish we've been working hard. We have tried to present bills to the
independent candidates.
Exactly. If we had the independent candidature, it will help. But politics is about alignments. It's about give and take. It's about understanding the system, and it's about knowing that, yes, I find myself in APC today, and I'm proud to say that I feel more at home, because you have an agenda where you have on the table progressiveness and a consistent voice saying we are fighting corruption.
All right.
We are fighting corruption, and you find that the elements that are dropping out by the side, let's not look at what is going. I think that we should look at what remains on the table. Okay. You cannot say this table is set and okay, you take a dish away, and because you take a dish away, I can't have what is left on the table. Let's look at what is left on the table.
All right, now, Babatunde, you were laughing, but then what do you make of what played out with the pact, the coalition that came together?
Well, much like my colleague has said, I do hold out a lot of respect for each and every one of those individuals that has put their reputations, their personal reputations on the line to run for the highest office in the land, regardless of how small of a platform their political party might be, individually speaking, that is. Of course, like she observed correctly, there was a proviso that they could opt out and step out on their own if they did not agree with the eventual choice of the coalition. And Mohalu has decided to exercise that right. Again, much respect to him. He says how big of a heart he actually has.
Does it?
Yes, it does.
Because
yes, it
some
does.
have said that if he had emerged as a consensus candidate, would he disagree with the outcome?
Of course he would not disagree with an outcome that presents he himself.
Still.
Of course he wouldn't. But clearly he believes, and many people do believe, that he does have what it takes to run Nigeria better than it's being run now, or than it's been run since independence even. You know, many people agree with that. And the same goes for many of those gentlemen in that coalition as well. There are quite a few of them that I have a lot of respect for, you know. So somebody has emerged, and somebody has opted out. So now it's looking like we have about 4 presidential candidates so far. The way the thing is playing out now, we have President Muhammadu Buhari, who's running. We're likely going to have somebody from the PDP very soon. Okay, yes. One person will emerge from the primaries. A number of the other political parties, mine included, may or may not present a candidate. It's a reality. All politics is local. All politics is local. Yeah. So we may or may not present a presidential candidate. If we do, then we'll be putting all our eggs in that basket to make sure that that candidate wins. And if we don't, then obviously it means we'll be working out some kind of arrangement with any of the other political parties to form some kind of a working coalition, so to speak. This is good for our democracy. Some people have argued that the idea of INEC registering 91 political parties is not helping our democracy. I disagree completely. The more the merrier. Eventually, we will begin to streamline out of necessity. A lot of political parties will merge. Some will simply just fade away into insignificance. That's just the nature of the beast.
All right, let's quickly come to Joe because we have other topics we need to look at. For some persons, the outcome of the pact is, for them, shows that there's really no third force to look out for. It was just a coalition that wasn't really strong enough to stand the test of time. But then, what are your views with regards to how this turned out and what lessons should be learned for other coalitions that are trying to come, other parties trying to come together?
Will you permit me to say something about the weighty statement you dropped here?
We need, because we are running out of time. You will come back to that.
I don't want him to go home.
We'll come back to that. We need to focus on this now.
Forget dogma, just answer the question.
Okay, my take is this, you know. I have been in the saddle politics since I left school in 1985, and I've seen it all. You see, you can't give what you don't have. Why must somebody form a political party today and you present a presidential candidate the same day? Do you know what it takes for you to traverse the 774 local governments and thousands of wards across Nigeria to get supporters? Why don't you start from the local ward level, local government chairman, and then you move on from there? Now look at what we're saying. It's not only Mogalo. Showore is also protesting. He said it's not part of the pack when the decision was taken. Mm. Now, these are the not too young to run, and you can see the fight. They can't even stand, just go inside the room and present one candidate. It's impossible. So, what am I saying? Line up and pay your price. It's just like Babatunde that is sitting down here. He was in PDP for almost 16 years. When PDP was crushed in 2015, he ran away last year. He ran away last year, and he's coming here to tell you that we have failed. These are the people in PDP that made all the money in the world for 16 good years. They plundered.
I will not take that. I will not take that.
Gentlemen,
I will not take that. I will not sit here. I will not sit here and take that. That is a personal attack. That is a personal attack, and I will not take that. I will not sit here. I will not sit here and have you impugn my integrity. I will not sit here and have you impugn my integrity. I will not sit here and have you and integrity.
We need to move on.
Let's move on.
Who the hell are you?
No, you're on
air. Caution him. It's always his way.
Who the hell are you to impugn my integrity?
It's always his way.
You came from nowhere to Lagos to,
No, I didn't come from nowhere.
Live off taxpayers' funds. You've been living off taxpayers' funds for years.
No, I didn't come from nowhere.
We need to take a break.
I have been here since be fine.
face the
Lagos is not your
issues.
Lagos.
Do not even.
Well, registration exercise for permanent voter cards officially ended on Friday, but many Nigerians are calling on the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to once again extend the date for the registration exercise so as not to disenfranchise a large number of the populace. Do you share the same view, Gloria?
I think I share the same view. For as long as we still have some time, the elections are in 2019, we could still have a window. More than ever before, everybody is determined this time around to exercise their franchise, and I think we should do as much as we can to ensure that this happens. I was in the NTA premises yesterday in Delta State, and I saw a polling, a registration point, and it was still packed full of a lot of people. I also have a classmate who came in from the diaspora who spent over 3 days trying to get registered. We encouraged her, and I think she's been able to register. And you have a number of them who still intend to come in from the diaspora to ensure that they vote. People are buying their tickets, coming in to register, and they are prepared to come in at the point of voting. So never before do we have an all-time high to exercise our rights as citizens to vote. So I think that it should be considered, and it would give a little window. But we would also call on Nigerians to, no matter how long you extend it, there will still be people who will be waiting to vote.
Course,
so we
definitely
must take advantage of whatever window we have and seriously go about registering.
All right, now I'm coming to you, Baba, today, because INEC is insisting that it will continue the exercise next year. So how will this impact the elections if it decides that it is until next year after the elections before it continues this exercise?
You know, something bothers me about this whole continuous registration exercise, and it's the idea that in 2018, you know, given that we are now in the regime of change, and the old administration, whatever flaws they might have had, has been swept out of office in the 2015 elections, that we're still talking about people registering and not being able to get their PVCs on the spot. When banks are able to produce debit cards, Visa debit cards, MasterCard debit cards on the spot as people apply for them in banks here in Nigeria. Now those debit cards are on global databases, you know, so that they can be used anywhere in the world. Now the PVCs are only available for use within the borders of Nigeria. I would have thought that with the advances in technology that we've had over the last few decades, if the PDP failed in that regard, the APC government ought to be able to correct things. These things can be bought off the shelf. And if there's a problem, you know, with if we can't have homegrown technology, there are people we can buy in from off the shelf. We can go to Visa or MasterCard and have them sort out, you know, this is their area of expertise. Right. We can have them sort out a system for us where, you know, PVCs can be printed on the spot whilst still being on the database so that it's live and there are no duplications. That's number one. Number two, I personally think that INEC have been a bit disingenuous in this particular continuous registration exercise, in the sense that in the run-up to the 2015 elections, the registration exercise was conducted at the polling units. So in local governments where they had, for instance, in Surulere where they had over 300 polling units in that election, every single polling unit was a registration center.
All right.
And every single one of those polling units was a point where you could pick up your PVC when the time came to collect the PVCs. So now INEC has truncated that and made it into, for Surulere local government, just the one registration center.
Finance.
Maybe, but the last budget approved for INEC, 142 billion, that's enough to float a couple of banks. National banks.
All right.
So really, there's no excuse. There really is no excuse. And INEC has been captured in the budgets since 2015 till date.
All right, we need to bring Joe in now. There is no excuse for INEC from what he is saying. Why are we not considering electronic voting?
Maybe when we get there, it's the people will say when you get to the bridge, you cross it. When we get to the point where we have to bring in electronic voting, we will do that. But you know, we are not as enlightened, as educated as some other places that are using electronic voting. What I will say is that registration continues to be a continuum. If you can't register today, you'll register tomorrow.
But it has been closed.
No, it's not everybody, not even everybody that has a voter's card that goes to vote. I have found out in my polling booth for years now, where we had 500 and something people. You can only get 100 and something for over 12 years now. That's what I've established in my polling booth, and it has reflected in all another polling booth. Some people will register and move to another location. You know, so it's not the number. If all of us who are eligible to vote register, and you have millions, but not everybody goes to the poll. So whatever INEC have let us, unless people are complaining.
But there's going to be some persons are going to be disenfranchised if they do not register. Even if the process, they want to go through that process, they want to vote. That's why they are coming out and complaining that this whole thing is difficult for us to collect or make our registration.
We'll continue to make progress. We'll continue to make amendments as we progress. We'll leave it to INEC. Like I said, apply technology to remove some of these hindrances, you know, that's been stopping people limiting people to go and register. You know, just do that. Do the needful. The money is there. Those who will do it are there. So INEC should, you know, think out of the box on how to handle some of these things. It shouldn't be an issue. It shouldn't be an issue. But I don't want to stop us from, we're not going to wait until every eligible voter registers before we go into elections. If you can't vote this, you can vote next year. No, we need to know the percentage of people that have been disenfranchised.
A single vote counts.
I know it counts. I know it counts. But I have also told you that it's not everybody that registered as a voter goes to vote. Is it just to have it?
No, some want to exercise their franchise.
600. And we have always registered 150, 140, 170 in my polling booths and in the Jishatedo.
But perhaps this has to do with education, voter education.
Yes, and I think that voter education is at an all-time high. I would want to, as much as possible, urge that we ensure that people are not disenfranchised. Anything we can do to ensure that people are not disenfranchised. Because we have a population that has limitations based on the kind of society we run. We have educational challenges, we have language barrier. Like he pointed out, INEC changed the system because of limitations of money. And so we should consider that in elongating the time, if it's possible. We still have till 2019. So I would not want to miss the chance of saying every single vote counts.
Yes.
And we are doing a lot to ensure that people are urged to use that PVC. There's a lot of campaign on making use of that PVC. So I would want to expect that the next election should be a progress from the last one. I would not want us to judge, below. We should raise the bar. We should ensure that there's voter awareness, there is education, and we're making our people realize the power in their votes. We're relying on them, and the system is ensuring that that PVC and even your party membership, and I give kudos to my party for that, because by the time you realize that your vote counts at the party level, at the primaries level, and your candidate can emerge, then you will be more interested in seeing that in the general elections, you exercise your franchise. But when you make up your mind that they've already eliminated my candidates, the right person cannot emerge, then you might not even want to bother with the general elections. But when you find that as a party member, like we have been making people aware, that you can have a voice in the party. Don't sit back and get on the social media and complain and lament. Register with a party, have a voice at the party level. When you have a voice at the party level and you see your candidate emerge, then you have, and you see that the process is clean and clear, then you have enough confidence to go to the polls and cast your vote. And I'm looking forward to things being done differently in Nigeria.
All right, Babatunde, if INEC is or does not decide to, ensure that it elongates this whole process, how is that going to impact voter confidence?
Well, there is a perception already, erroneous though it might be, that the election results have already been decided and that votes do not count anyway. It's a wrong perception. And it's up to us politicians to educate the electorate and let them know that actually your votes do count. And it's when you don't go and exercise your franchise, especially when you've actually registered, that you open the door for those who want to rig elections, to use your PVC to rig. They call it election before election. They go and thumbprint in palaces and all these other places, and then come and stuff ballots on election day. So there's that. But really, I really want to urge INEC to reconsider this ending of the registration process, of the PVC collection of the registration process. Given that you've already truncated, you've already shrunk the process by reducing Alimosho with 700 registration centers prior to the 215 elections to just 4 registration centers.
To quickly wrap up.
I would want INEC to extend until at least January. Okay, right. Extend till January. Open up the system, bring the banks into the system, and we can register more people.
Joe, I would have loved for you to say your final words, but we have run out of time.
INEC should apply technology and address this problem once and for all.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen and lady, for coming on the show, and thank you for your thoughts and patience.
It's been a pleasure.
And that's our package on today's edition of Standpoint. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Veronica Danik. Boy, enjoy your weekend.